Captain, welcome to Stowe Better's Elite TFO training. Today's operation is Hive Onslaught. Let's review objectives.
The first objective of this TFO is to defeat the Queen's Guards, a mixed force of Borg cubes, tactical cubes, and spheres. Your team must complete this objective in under 10 minutes on Elite, and the overall mission must be completed in under 25 minutes. You must also keep one player alive at all times, with an optional objective of losing no player ships. Once the initial force is defeated, 2 Borg dreadnoughts will warp in. Defeat both vessels while keeping at least 2 players alive. Lastly, engage the Queen's command vessel. Once the Borg Queen's ship is destroyed, you will be prompted to scan for escape pods. If you're flying this mission for rewards, press F to scan and complete the TFO. Privately formed groups seeking to use this TFO for DPS testing can leave the map at this point without scanning, which will yield no mark or dilithium rewards, but also does not put the TFO on the standard 30-minute cooldown.
Thank you. On to risks and rewards. This TFO needs substantial coordination and team composition to play well on Elite, and the threat level is high due to the large number of Borg vessels in the opening group, as well as the Borg's Queen ship, which has a number of potent abilities, most notably Feedback Pulse. This TFO awards a moderate amount of Omega or Fleet Marks, along with a chance for Enchained Current Pieces. Lastly, this operation can be very short with a well-built team composition at 2 minutes or less, which is one of the reasons that this operation is used for DPS benchmark testing. The adversaries on this operation are Borg. Borg vessels have a powerful shield drain ability, so encounters with them need to account for low shield uptime. Additionally, energy builds must be aware that the Borg dreadnoughts have a chance of using Feedback Pulse, which deals damage to the player ship based on how much damage you're outputting. An Elite capable energy build can easily destroy itself. Even more dangerous is the Queen's ship, which uses a more potent version of Feedback Pulse. Your Science Bridge officer will inform you when she is about to use it, or you can watch for the blue Delta buff icon on her ship. Aceton Field is another one of the Queen's abilities. It can cause significant damage to ships within 5 kilometers, based on the number of energy attacks the Queen has received. Lastly, the Queen can also use Confuse abilities on player ships, causing them to turn on one another temporarily. Having a well-built tank is basically essential on this map if avoiding player deaths and completing all optionals is desired. The tank will draw fire for the rest of the team while they work together to clear the Queen's guards. This is especially important for DPS testing, as most DPS builds cannot destroy the Borg quickly or efficiently while handling incoming fire from that many Borg vessels. If energy builds are part of the team composition and a deathless or DPS chasing run is desired, it is highly recommended to bring a Science Career Captain as part of the team's composition. The Science Captain's subnucleonic beam is a guaranteed reliable way to clear the Queen's Feedback Pulse, and your bridge officer again will inform you when she is activating it. At the start of the encounter, target one of the central tactical cubes rather than the ones on the edge of the formation so that AoE abilities will strike as many Borg ships as possible. Having a strong gravity well to clump all the Borg ships together is also highly desirable. After fighting the initial group, moving south, as shown on the minimap, should allow players to methodically move their way through the Borg formation. If the team composition is primarily single target builds, care should be taken not to leave straggling cubes or spheres behind. The goal should be not to turn around. After the initial encounter, player vessels should be facing toward Dreadnought Vessel 2 if all Borg ships were eliminated without turning around in the first phase. Vessel 2 should thus be the focus, then Vessel 1 of 2, and then finally the Queen. Now, combat footage will be shown to illustrate the principles discussed previously. The goal of this section is not to illustrate perfect piloting, but provide an example of how to successfully complete the map with all objectives and without dying. Kinetic builds are moderately effective on this map, as there are many high hit point targets to bombard, but all of them are shielded, which significantly lowers kinetic DPS. Once the briefing ends, fly in at full impulse and target one of the central tactical cubes, ideally one that has gravity well on it and is pulling all the spheres around it, for additional AoE damage. Use all of your long cooldown buffs and console actives here. Positioning in the first segment is a balancing act, but as a torpedo boat, distance is not a DPS loss aside from travel time for projectiles. Flying too far in will draw enemy fire and earn a quick death. The bigger concern is warp core breaches, which can deal significant portions of your health in a single blast and can be hard to see if your team is killing the cubes quickly. In the latter part of the first stage, your focus should be on the tactical cubes, which have more hit points and thus make better targets for torpedoes. When the Queen's Guards are defeated, ending the first stage, a cutscene will play. It can be skipped by holding Escape on PC or the equivalent operation on console. Once the Dreadnoughts warp in, you should be facing Vessel 2 if you flew through the first part cleanly, with no straggling ships behind you. Target Vessel 2 first, then move to Vessel 1 once it's defeated. To flank the Queen, fly past her heading up on the minimap and then come about. I did not do that on this run, but flanking generally results in more DPS if you're in a raider or running intel specialization as primary. The best time to make this maneuver is when you're switching from Vessel 2 to Vessel 1. The Queen's abilities are many, and her use of them is variable, so her threat is unpredictable. Kinetic builds are unconcerned with feedback pulse, as any energy weapons on your ship deal insignificant damage. Be careful of Aceton Field, which does damage in a 5 km radius around the Queen based on how many energy hits she takes. If you're using Tractor Beam for rapid emitting armaments, you will have to be that close at least some time. If your team has a Science Captain using Subnucleonic Beam to strip such abilities, this is not a concern. Once the Queen is defeated, scan the escape pods to complete the TFO. Remember that coordinated groups can warp out before scanning to avoid the 30-minute TFO cooldown at the cost of no marks or dilithium reward, which is what happened in this recording. Captain, if this breakdown helped you in your quest to play Stowe better, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. The link to the specific build used for this tutorial is in the description. For more guides and builds, check us out at www.stobetter.com.